Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our introductory webinar on our new Field Scout TDR 350 soil moisture meter. My name is Ashley Camillo, and I'm the marketing manager here at Spectrum Technologies. I will be the moderator for this webinar. With me today is Lloyd Bowman, National Account Manager of Spectrum's Turf Division. Before I pass everything off to Lloyd, I would like to establish a few housekeeping items. For convenience, we have muted everyone upon entry. If you have a question, please utilize the Ask Question function. After we have given our presentation, we will allow time for more discussion and questions. A recording of this webinar will be available tomorrow. With that being said, I will pass everything over to Lloyd.
All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. Excited to have you on the line here to learn more about our new product here. This is intended to be a quick introduction to go over the new features, give you a little bit of insight into what it does, how it compares to the TDR 300, and give you some information about the availability and some other stuff that we're doing. So I've got about 20-25 minutes worth of stuff to talk about here. And then we'll leave some time at the end for you to ask us some questions. Like Ashley said, please use the Ask Questions tab on the screen there in order to type in the questions so that we can try and answer them in an orderly fashion. Here we have kind of a bullet list of the improvements that we've made. Key among them are the introduction of measurement of EC, electrical conductivity, and turf surface temperature. And the inclusion of those two new measurement parameters allows us the opportunity to increase the accuracy of the moisture readings that we're getting. We also have increase the size and layout and functionality of the display, and we've added a backlight because we know that there are a lot of people doing early morning course setups when in low light conditions, so we've done that to prevent the need to have an external light source in order to use the meter. We've integrated Bluetooth and GPS capability right into it. It's built right in, and both are available from day one without any need to use an external device of any sort. We've increased the data logger to hold up to 50,000 measurements before it starts to fill, which is significantly increased over the TDR 300, which used to only hold about 2,000. And we have significantly improved the framework on the handle. The shaft is actually telescoping now instead of folding. The tubular shaft makes it stronger, and it also allows us the opportunity to conceal and protect the cabling. So you can see at the bottom there we provided you with the item number 6435 and the new list pricing. We're about a little over $300 more than the base model TDR 300, but we feel like the value that we've added with this list of new functionalities far outweighs that cost increase. A little bit about the electrical conductivity measurement. We are measuring an average bulk EC. We'll be using the same rods that are used for the moisture measurement. Will also act as electrodes for the EC circuit. The value that you see is an average over the entire length of that sample or that rod length. So for example, if you're using 3-inch rods, just like with the moisture value you're seeing is an average of that entire 3-inch length. The EC value is also an average of that entire 3-inch length, and that obviously changes with the size rods if you use a different size rods. The 350 also gives us the option to see the EC in the form of salinity index, which allows us the opportunity. EC is best measured at saturation. The primary or the most common usage of this is golf greens, and so it's not very often that we have golf greens at saturation. So the salinity index is a really good tool to be able to measure the EC reported by the meter relative to the amount of moisture that is also recorded. The turf surface temperature is a thermistor sensor. It is integrated right into the block there. So on that surface of the block between where the rods screw into the meter is a small bubble to protect the thermistor. Directly behind that bubble is the thermistor itself. When the meter is fully inserted, the rods are fully inserted into the ground for a reading, it comes into equilibrium with that surface, which is a combination of leaf material, thatch material, and a little bit of the upper surface of the soil as well. So you're getting that spot measurement from that location. We'll also be, and I'll have a little bit more information on this in a future slide, we're also going to be introducing an infrared temperature accessory, which will allow you to take a canopy, probably a faster for sure, but a more representative turf canopy measurement. The display you can see a little bit in this screen here, and we'll dig into some more details on it in a future slide. We have significantly increased the size of the display. We've made it a graphic LCD, so we can actually show you some quick images on the screen that'll give you an at-a-glance update on the status of your meter and the operation. That's also allowed us the ability to increase the size of the most important numbers. And as has been the case with our meters all along, the display allows you the opportunity to see an instant reading without having to be connected to any external device, smartphone or otherwise. So that's something that was really important to us to continue on that type of functionality. So that if you need to take a few quick readings, you can get instant feedback and you don't have to fumble with external devices. Integration of Bluetooth and GPS, those are onboard components. No additional parts are needed if you want to do wireless communication to a smartphone, through the smartphone onto SpecConnect, the web portal. And the GPS capability, onboard GPS gives us significantly improved location capability and geolocation of all readings taken, not only when you're connected to a device, but the log file will now include geolocation information, GPS information for every reading that you take. Obviously with SpecConnect, we feel like that allows you the opportunity to see things in a different way, a convenience to get your readings into a web portal wirelessly without any kind of manual download, and obviously some visualization on satellite imagery. So we've done some things to improve that offering as well. A couple of notes on the data port. Data port used to be a stereo pin type that was on the underside. What we've done now is we have done away with the cable and the software that used to be needed in order to get the data off of the meter. Now any USB stick that you already own can be plugged into the meter and go into the settings menu, and you can export all of that data onto the USB stick. The USB stick can then be transferred over, plugged into a computer. It will open as a comma delimited file, or it opens easily into an Excel file. So you would be able to very easily, very readily upload your information into Excel and save it in a location where you could find it again later. And again, like I mentioned, the piece that having to keep track of the cable and having to make sure that the software gets transferred to a new computer, that completely goes away now with this new functionality. This will also allow you the opportunity to update your firmware yourself. Firmware going forward will be linked on our website. You'll be able to link to any updates in firmware you can just save that file, that update file, to a USB stick, and there are instructions in the manual as to how to use that USB stick to upload the new firmware onto your meter. Just for the technical of you out there, there are some specifications here. I'll just kind of skim and cover a couple of major ones. Measurement principle, just like with the TDR 300, is still time domain. Measurement method, we're still using the same measurement that has been tried and true in the industry out in the field for many years. We're still reporting in VWC as a percentage of the volume of the soil profile, the soil sample. Accuracy is the same as it was with the TDR 300, so you don't have to worry about any drop-off or change in that capacity. Battery life is influenced with the additional capabilities. They do actually use a little bit extra battery, so depending on how you use the meter, it will influence the battery life. So GPS usage, the biggest user of power is the backlight. So we've offered an auto setting that will light up the screen for a couple of seconds, long enough for you to view the reading, and then for power save reasons it'll shut off automatically. Or you can turn that off if you're using in full light conditions to conserve battery. I mentioned the improvements to the data logging, and there are some specifications on the EC, the new EC and temperature measurements as well. Just a quick visual comparison to the 300. You can see on the left there we have the 2 meters standing up side by side, nearly identical as far as dimensions go. The tubular shaft is a little bit, it's heftier, it's stronger, so it does add a little bit of weight, but it's nothing significant. And then in order to get all that new circuitry, we've increased the size of the display console a little bit. You can see the side-by-side. Even in this photo, you can already see how much easier it is to read this screen. Key comparisons to note on the TDR 300 versus the 350. The 300 used AAA batteries. We'll be using AA batteries in the 350. I've mentioned a little bit about the character LCD on the TDR 300 was very limited. The backlit and graphic LCD offers us significant opportunities to improve the way that functions. GPS was required an external device on the old meter. The new meter has it built in. Depth measurements will be exactly the same. The same rods that have always used for the TDR 300 will still be viable and work for the TDR 350. Bluetooth, again, for the 300 used to require an external device, and again with the 350 it is built right into the meter. Field Scout mobile app has been updated to support the TDR 350, as well as continuing to support the 300 and the TrueFirm. Measurement-wise, with the 300, we are measuring pretty much exclusively volumetric water content, and with the 350, we are measuring the volumetric water content, EC, that surface temperature, and obviously that gives us the opportunity to view those relative to one another in the salinity index. Just a little more detail on the display. Even in the quick snapshot we saw before, there are significant improvements. We've enlarged, we've used the graphic LCD to make it possible for us to enlarge the most important readings and make them easy for you to see, and to put more things on, with the larger display, put more things at a glance for you to be able to verify. One of the cool things is that the graphic LCD allows us to have 4 different icons to indicate the live status or the active status of the GPS. We have 2 different icons that can represent the Bluetooth status, and then we obviously have the battery status as well is able to show up right on the screen. Pardon me. GPS, the four modes are, they're all arrows. The first arrow would be an empty arrow with a white background. That would indicate that the GPS has been enabled, but no satellites are being communicated with. So if you turned it on inside of a building, you would probably have that empty arrow for a while. The display, the icon will change with a gray internal part of the arrow, and that would indicate that some satellites have been located, but probably not enough to start taking readings with accuracy yet. Black, as we're looking at here, means that you have good communication with multiple satellites, and you can start taking readings. And then black with some crosshairs overlaid over top of it would indicate that a differential lock has been achieved, which is really kind of indicates the best possible GPS has been achieved. Bluetooth, this Bluetooth sign here would indicate that Bluetooth is enabled and that it is currently paired to a device. That icon with a bar going through it diagonally would indicate that Bluetooth is on, but it is not currently paired. You can also see just below the VWC number, we are displaying in larger font the EC reading to the left and the temperature reading to the right. You can also verify key information that the right rod length is set, the right soil setting is selected, your current count of readings, and the average of that count. Calibration with the TDR 300 is possible. The reason for that is because we know that there are a lot of people out there that have been using the 300 for a number of years, have established and been managing to specific numbers for quite some time. And so it was important to us that we would include what we call a TDR 300 mode on the new meter, so that you could put it in that mode and be able to have the TDR 350 read consistent or the same readings values as a TDR 300. By doing that, we're also able to calibrate the 350 along with the 300s that you might already have, so that you can make sure that everything is standardized. It's all based on the same standard. And then when you have the EC optimization on, you would be able to know that any differences that you see in the readings would be EC and temperature related, not a difference in the meters themselves. The infrared temperature accessory is also going to be coming soon, probably available around the same time as the meters are available. This will give us the exclusive ability to geolocate an infrared canopy temperature along with your moisture readings. We would be the only moisture meter that I'm aware of that offered that capability. This is a highly accurate and instantaneous temperature reading of the turf canopy. With the shaft of the TDR 350 fully extended, you would have about a 6-inch spot on the turf just in front of the meter that you would be measuring, and that would take into account that leaf blade temperature and that canopy environment. The primary difference to note on the IR temperature versus the integrated temperature sensor, the thermistor that's included in the potting of the meter, that integrated temperature thermistor is going to be coming into equilibrium with the surface itself. So that is going to be, like I mentioned before, a little bit of leaf material, some thatch, a little bit of the top layer of soil, and it's going to be in that trapped environment where that thermistor is being pressed against the soil surface, versus the IR being that 6-inch spot that I explained, and it's going to be more of a representative of that canopy environment. The two numbers may not and probably should not ever be exactly the same, so they shouldn't be compared because they are measuring different things and in different locations. That's just important to note. The beauty, in my opinion, of this IR temperature accessory, the thermistor does take a few moments to come into equilibrium with the surface in order to give you the most accurate reading. the infrared is instantaneous. So as fast as you can press that read button, you can get fast, accurate readings with the IR sensor. Just a couple of notes on improvements that we have already made as of a couple of weeks ago to the SpecConnect Field Scout Pro offering. You can actually now go into SpecConnect on a computer and define specific areas of measurement. In this case, it's a golf green that you can custom draw the shape. You can adjust the shape after it's initially drawn. And what that does is it allows you the opportunity to use freeform mode in the app with the Pro subscription to get an individual plot point for each and every reading that you make, made more accurate by the internal GPS on the TDR 350, and you can see that we can then use those readings, any readings that fall within that area that you have drawn out. We can create a color-coded gradient map to show you the relative how those readings lay out across that surface. Like I said, if I didn't mention it, that was made available about 2 weeks ago and is actually currently live for those that have the SpecConnect Field Scout Pro subscriptions. We also wanted to let you know that in addition to the 350 upgrade, we're also upgrading the TDR 100 to a TDR 150. It has the same new features as the 350 with the caveat that in base mode, base model will not have Bluetooth and GPS. That is to allow people who don't want to take those measurements to have a little bit lower price point in order to get entry into the soil moisture measurement. But we are also going to offer the ability to turn on those functionalities for those people who would like to use them with this meter. Other than that, everything is the same. It's the same improvements to the display, the temperature, the thermistor temperature reading, and the EC measurements are also included in the TDR 150, just like with the 350. Kind of the bottom line here, pricing and availability on the meters. We're accepting pre-orders now. Full production of these will not begin until August, which means the vast majority of shipments will not begin until August. There will be a limited pre-production run that we are making available through distributors only, and that'll be available in April. So if you're interested in getting one of these sooner than August, your best bet is to place an order through a distributor who will have access to that limited pre-production run. With that, we have pretty much covered the basics that I wanted to run through to make sure that everybody has an idea of what exactly the new meter is and how it compares to the old. Hopefully we've got some questions here I'd be happy to address.
Yes, so please feel free to use the questions module within the GoToWebinar function. I have a few questions already. Do the new TDR models, the 350 and the 150, use the same rods as the old meters?
Yes, they do. They are exactly the same rods that you know, it's always a good idea. Those are wear items. They do need to be replaced over time. The friction from inserting them into the soil over and over again on a repeated basis does wear them down. And over time, as they get further and further away from their original dimensions, they can impact the accuracy of readings. It's a good idea to always start a new meter with a new set of rods, but the same rods that work in one will work in the other.
And what are the rod lengths that we have available for both models?
So rod lengths will be exactly the same as we've always had. 1.5 inches are what we consider to be the turf rods. 3 inch are what we call short rods. 4.8 inches are what we consider medium rods, and then the long rods are 8 inches. So in some cases, people will use multiple sets of rods because they like to see what readings they get when they're taking readings over different depths in order to get a bit of a snapshot into how moisture might be moving through the soil profile.
Excellent. What is the benefits of the 350 to its competitor?
Well, right off the top, cost. If you want to spend an extra $1,000 on a different meter, you're welcome to do so. Functionality-wise, you should find that the 350 does everything that is being claimed to be done by the other meter. We offer the cloud-based utilities, and we are making improvements all the time. The cost on our cloud-based functionality is quite a bit less as well. And the infrared temperature sensor is something that we'll be doing that they are not doing.
Okay, excellent. How often should the units be calibrated?
So calibration, the competitor has jumped all up and down on that and made some questionable statements at times. Calibration is an option, it is not a requirement. If you have one meter, there's never a reason to calibrate it, unless for some reason it falls out of factory calibration over time. That is possible over a couple of years of usage. But on a daily basis, there's no reason to calibrate a single meter. If you have multiple meters, there can be slight variations in the rod length between the two meters from that friction. Different readings taken in different places at different times or more frequently can make the rods on multiple meters wear a little bit differently, which can create slight variations in the readings that they display. As well, just slight changes in the metals used in the manufacturing process. Sometimes when you purchase materials to build a circuit board, one year and another year you buy those, and the quality of those metals can be a little bit different over time. Calibration will allow you to standardize the readings between multiple meters, but it's not, as has been stated by others, it's not something that has to be done every time you take the meter out, and it's not something that has to be done if you're only using a single meter.
Excellent. I think I also wanted to throw out there one of the other benefits of our 350 to the competitor is that we don't require an app, and the readings can be done on the unit itself.
Yes, yeah, the display is key. The other meter requires you to put it into the ground, and then you have to pull out your smartphone, and you have to turn off your Wi-Fi, and you have to pair your Wi-Fi with the device itself, and then you wait for the device to give you readings, and then you have to log out of the Wi-Fi with the device, and then you have to get back onto your network in order to upload your data. With the TDR 350, the display is right there in front of you at all times. As soon as you press the button, you have your readings. If you need to jump out of the cart and take 2 or 3 readings because you feel like you see some areas that might be on the verge of wilt, you can go out and take those 2 or 3 measurements without having to go through the rest of that process.
Very good points. Is there a warranty on the unit, and if so, how long?
Yes, there is a 1-year warranty on almost all of our products, and that covers any manufacturing defects, and just kind of depends on a situation-to-situation basis. It can cover a little bit more than that, but yes, it does have a 1-year warranty. Most people have had these things for several years with no issues, but for safety, just to kind of make you feel better about your purchase, we definitely do have, and we'll stand behind this meter.
Excellent. One other question, is the USB port waterproof?
The USB port is waterproof. The entire housing itself is not waterproof. It is water resistant. We have done water testing with the unit, so we actually sprayed that upper display housing with water for a 5-minute period, and there were no malfunctions, no hang-ups. And then part of our testing was a submersion test. We actually dipped it completely in water. That did result in a freezing of the screen, but drying it out and replacing the batteries restored full function of the meter. The USB port itself is waterproof, so you could actually pour a small amount of water into that USB port and it's not going to hurt a thing. If you get some dust or grime in that port, you can actually take a little water bottle or something and rinse that out and clean it out so that you can get the USB in there.
Yes, I believe the USB port is IP67 certified as in dust tight and waterproof. Let's see. Do we have any more questions? Looks like we've filled all the ones that have come through. Give a little bit longer. Right. Well, it looks like we've answered all of our questions. Wanted to thank all of our attendees for joining us today. We hope we've answered all of your questions. If not, we will be following up after this with a recording of the webinar and the deck and some contact information if you have any further questions.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.